Hello, and welcome to We Live for Saturday, your favorite college football podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike, and with me, as always, is your other co-host, John. John, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. Getting closer to Christmas. Been super busy out here on the road. I am in Raleigh, North Carolina right now for a couple well-deserved days off. It's been
Nice.
we're kind of hitting crunch time right now, so everything's getting really busy. But
Yeah, I
but it's
bet.
good. It's good though. So but it's just crazy how it all just goes by so fast, and then before I know it, I'll be on a plane heading back to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that'll be it. New Year's
Yeah,
Eve
man.
back in
But
my
right now,
house.
you're doing like 2 shows a day.
Yeah, 2 shows a day. This coming week we have 10 shows in 6 days, so which is going to be
A
intense, like
lot.
right up until Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in Columbus, Ohio. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Columbus,
So
Big Ten country.
oh yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. I'm hoping that somehow there's some snow in Ohio. That would be great.
Yeah, man.
So get on that, Buckeye fans.
Well, we're supposed to get some here, but my worry is that it's supposed to be 34 on Christmas Eve. So I'm worried we're going to get a bunch of snow and then it's all going to melt by the time Christmas happens.
That's always...
So I'm hoping that comes down, because if that would come down even to like 30, 31,
yeah,
then the snow probably wouldn't melt, or at least not all of it would melt.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it says 32 is melting, but let's be real. Anytime you're in the 30s, snow is melting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I
agree. Unless you get like a ton of it where you're not going to notice it. But
right.
Unfortunately,
but even then you're getting some melting on the top.
Yeah.
And it's like sinking into itself.
I just want a good like cold winter, but like a ton of
Yes.
snow like we used to get when we were kids, man. That's the way it used to always be. So
it is. Although where we're from, it's a little snowier than it is here in the cities.
Oh, really? It is okay.
Fargo, you get more. Yeah. Or is it snowy, or is there just more wind so you get the snow? Because the snow just blows across the whole state and then it just gets stuck in Fargo.
It's blowing from the Rockies out in like Billings, and then it comes all the way across North Dakota. Like yeah, that's what's happening.
I remember I had a speaker once. I was at a speaker once, and he was the fascinating Serbian guy, and he's like, "Yeah, where I come from, the snow comes from the sky, not Canada." We were like, kind of.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I just had a cool experience. It is the 70th anniversary of the cinematic classic White Christmas.
Yes.
Starring Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Vera Ellen, and Rosemary Clooney.
Hell yeah.
And so they're showing it in theaters. So I saw it in theaters.
Where'd you go? Which theater?
The one that your fiance recommended, the Imagine.
Oh, no way.
In Eagan.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, dude. It was actually really, and they do have like actual food there. Like awesome. Your fiance was telling the truth, and that was cool. So the last time, I want to say I was with you the last time I saw that in theaters. We were like 16, 17 at the Fargo Theater.
Yep. Yeah.
With
I totally agree. We were with
Marisa H. was the parent in the group.
Right. That's right.
Dude. Yeah.
Wow. Throwback. But
I know, I pulled that one out of the vault.
It's so funny how I think on Twitter just like a week or so ago, someone posted about like how what's your favorite Christmas movie, and both of you said White Christmas, and then I chimed in and said the same thing, which is true. It's a freaking classic.
That's the greatest. Man. It's amazing.
It's incredible.
Dude, seeing those big production numbers up on a big screen, man, they don't make movies like that anymore.
No, they don't. Man.
They absolutely do not. And where even the main characters are all good dancers, except for Rosemary Clooney, who couldn't dance her way out of a wet paper bag. So everybody else, because even Bing Crosby can
he can move.
Yeah, he can dance. And Danny Kaye is very good, and Vera Ellen is
outrageous.
I mean, she's out of control.
Yeah.
What she's doing out there.
Yeah, Rosemary Clooney, they just gave her like a tambourine. And that was
I know. And you can see when you look at her feet, and they're not like lined, like everyone else is just right on, and hers are kind of like a little slow and off. Yeah. But great singer, great actor.
This is now, I guess, a Christmas movie podcast. We're gonna rank our favorite Christmas movies, and then we'll.
Oh man, I could go all day. I could go all day. Like we could go right on it. I actually thought about doing a separate podcast just to review Christmas movies. I might do it as an offshoot of this podcast.
Why not? Yeah, dude. Like that'll be. I'm sure it'll.
I'll work it up for next year. For next year, I'll do it. Why not? I love it.
Yeah, man.
The old period piece Christmas ones with like weird American propaganda baked into them.
Oh, those are the best. Those are the best.
Weird foreign bad guys that are too on the nose, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get too far afield, we should probably talk some football, huh?
Yeah, and I'll start with this just so we get this out of the way too. Is if you want to find out more about our Christmas movies, our favorite Christmas movies, you can find us here on YouTube. We Live for Saturday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. You can also find us on Twitter at We Live for B1GSat. You can find Mike here at Alibaba26, me, Norwegian Gopher. And you can also email us, weliveforsaturday@gmail.com. Or weliveforSaturdayB1G@gmail.com. My bad.
Right on. All right. So before we are going to, in this episode, which we're not quite on the same page, but we're on the same page now about, we are going to talk about the Big Ten playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just so you know, our next podcast from right now will come out on the morning of Christmas Eve as a present for all of you traveling to and from your Christmases with family.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about all the bowls, and we'll recap the first round of the playoff as well.
Yep.
So that'll be probably a little bit of a longer podcast. So that'll be good to get you through your holidays. But for now, we got to talk about some of these playoff games before they happen. But first, we've got the transfer portal going on because only in college football do they try to do everything at the same time.
It's insane, dude.
Other sports, they have it broken up, broken up throughout the year on a timeline.
Yep.
College football, it's like, no, we're going to have National Signing Day, and we're going to have the postseason, and we're going to have the transfer portal all at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get coaching changes, you get roster changes, we get signing, it's just, I do. And you wonder why, like some of these older head coaches are like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't do it.
You can't blame them, man.
Nope.
I heard should we call, is Ryan Burns a friend of the pod? I don't know. I don't know if we're close enough. Friend adjacent to the pod, we'll say. Ryan Burns. I've met him, but I don't really know him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he made a really good point that even when guys aren't transferring out, the coach every single day of his life is talking to somebody who's thinking about the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to re-recruit your whole roster every day. You're recruiting somebody.
Yeah.
You're recruiting somebody to stay every day. And man, that's a grind, dude.
Yeah, you got to be a special type of person to want to do that, or have someone on your staff who is willing to do that if you can.
Yeah, but no, the head coach has to be the one though. Ultimately, he's got to be the one. I'm sure there are position coaches putting out fires, but it's the head man who's coming when the big guns are coming out, oh, this kid, we might lose this kid in the portal.
Yeah.
You got to come talk.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, should we talk about a few portal moves?
Yeah, let's talk about a few.
So we're not going to go through everything. There's just way too much stuff to talk about to go through everything in the portal, but we'll hit some of the highlights, some of the bigger names and things we're hearing or that have happened so far in the transfer portal. So we have Miller Moss leaving USC, heading to Louisville. And I got to say, John, my first reaction to this was anytime a quarterback says, hey, I'm going to go play for Jeff Brom, it usually works out pretty well.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
I mean, is Aiden O'Connell not still in the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jeff Brom is a quarterback whisperer. Miller Moss has been good, but not spectacular. I think he could take another step up. I think he could be better than Tyler Shuck was this year.
Yeah.
For Louisville, I think he could be if he can limit the turnovers, the turnover-worthy balls. He's really good. He's really accurate.
Well, and I think it also, if you get a coach that actually cares about you, and you get a coach that can give you an offensive line that'll protect you,
yes.
I think Miller Moss is going to do exceptionally well at Louisville, and it's just Jeff Brom is just also that kind of guy that just knows how to scheme for good quarterbacks, man. He knows how to get people open. He will make you feel good. He'll make you feel prepared, and not just throwing you to the wolves out there. And I think that's what we've talked about a million times here, that Miller Moss was not the problem at USC. It was Lincoln Riley. And so I think having him leave, I think is just the right move in so many ways. Not just, I think, for his career, but I also think, I mean, you got to believe his mental health at this point in time.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was being hung out to dry all the time, and on and off the field, and being blamed for things that weren't his fault. So,
I mean, to get benched with the way he was playing well enough not to get benched.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy like Maeva, who's super inaccurate.
Yep.
Who's a very good athlete.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. I will be shocked if Jaden Maeva finishes his career at the power conference level.
Yeah.
I expect him eventually to end up at a group of 5 or even an FCS school somewhere. Because I just don't think you can only get so much more accurate. Like, you can get faster, you can get stronger, you can get smarter, you can get quicker, you can get a lot of things, but you can only get so much more accurate as a quarterback. Like, you kind of either have it or you don't at a certain point.
No, I agree. And I best case scenario, or Jesus, talk, John. Best case scenario is that he's at like a low level, power 2 program or something like that, like where they're just desperate to find somebody. But I don't see it either. I think that it's just going to continue to be a problem at USC unless, again, Lincoln Riley finds some way to totally revamp that offensive line.
They need to hit on Hassan Longstreet.
Yeah.
They need him to be it. Mm-hmm. The way like Caleb Williams came in and was it, they need him to come in and be it right away. Because Lincoln Riley needs to win more games next year. Or, like, as big as his buyout is, they're not going to be patient forever.
No.
And he has failed to such an extent. He failed so spectacularly this year that it's,
Yeah. 6-7 wins is not acceptable at USC.
No.
And it shouldn't be. With that much money?
No. Maryland won one conference game all year, and it was against USC. Mm-hmm. One conference game all year, and it was against USC.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's pathological when you start losing games like that. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I don't know, man. I think Lincoln Riley might turn around next year in like mid-September and think, man, I probably shouldn't have gotten rid of Miller, huh?
Yep.
I could see that. Unless Longstreet's ready right away, I could see this being a thing where Lincoln regrets driving him away and using him as a scapegoat.
I totally agree, man. I don't know. The future does not look bright for Lincoln Riley at USC right now, and
they got a million receivers in the portal. All their receivers are in the portal. Did you see that?
I did.
They've got all their starting receivers in the portal, I think, except for Deion Branch.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else is.
Yep. One just signed up with Penn State.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Karan Hudson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, man, we're going to see. But again, back to Miller Moss, I think he's in a good place. I know Jeff Brom will take good care of him, and he'll definitely get the best out of him. So good for him. I'm happy for him.
Oh, for sure, like dude. He's gonna break some Louisville record next year. You know he is.
Yeah.
You know he's gonna do it, and Jeff Brom's gonna look like a genius because he usually does.
And Trojan fans are probably gonna watch it all happen and being like,
just be clawing their eyes out. Yeah, it could be. Unless Longstreet's the truth, man.
It's true.
In which case, all will be forgiven.
Yes.
And he's a 5-star, so he could be. That's the thing. Anytime these guys are a 5-star, they probably aren't going to hit right away, but they might.
They might.
Yep. It happens for sure. All right, moving on. We have to our neighbors to the southeast. Billy Edwards from Maryland. Heading to Wisconsin, which, man, I got to be honest. What does it say about Maryland's program, first of all, that they couldn't hang on to Billy Edwards?
Or Roman Hemby.
Roman Hemby.
Yeah. Yep. He just hit the portal. So
yeah, that's not good. Those guys are both pretty good players.
They are, and I don't know, man. It's just Locks is just not getting it done, and I think people have given him enough time, but he's not.
No, you think people are just out? You think the players just don't believe in him anymore?
How could you, when this is what you see continuously year after year, and I feel like the writing was on the wall prior to all of this. When Talia left, we talked about it. Like, is he going to be able to do the same thing and find a way to squeak out these games because you have a generational quarterback at Maryland? Well, you don't need more. Now, Billy Edwards Jr. he's a good quarterback, but he's not Talia. And
no, not close.
That's just, so as as a head coach of a Big Ten program, it's just not acceptable, especially when your trend is continuously starting out hot. Everybody's talking about you. Oh man,
Every
this
year.
is the year where they get over the hump, and
Yep.
every year you fail at the same point in the season, and it's just so predictable.
His
So
teams don't get any better, and by November, everyone else has gotten better.
yeah,
and they crater.
Yep,
and it's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And he never recruits well enough up front, and he never learns and does any better at it.
No,
it's like, yeah, man, Mike Loxley ultimately might be one of those guys who's happier as an offensive coordinator.
I think that's great. I think he should be there. That he'd thrive at, and any program would be lucky to have him.
Because I feel like he's a dead man walking right now at Maryland. Like, if you're telling me that Billy Edwards is leaving and they can't replace him with anybody better or as good, then they went 4-8 this year. What are they going to go next year without Billy Edwards?
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think the outlook looks great right now, and then you're losing Roman Hemby, and then Ty Felton's going to go to the draft.
Yep.
And
as he should.
So I don't know. I don't know who they're going to have left.
Yeah, man. Rough. I look at Maryland and Purdue, and it's like a fire sale.
Oh, dude. Oh, Purdue. I mean,
Purdue's rough,
dude. I mean, Maryland's bad, but Purdue is like
Purdue's bleeding guys every direction.
Yeah.
And Dylan Thieneman was apparently supposed to be gonna go visit Ohio State, and Oregon gave him so much money he didn't even bother with a visit. He just committed to Oregon.
Can't blame him.
Dude, Phil Knight is playing a different game from everybody else, man.
Yeah, he is. And
he really and truly is. And it's honestly, it's kind of not fair.
Yeah, well, and Thieneman's going to do great there. I know he is.
Of course he is.
A fantastic player, and yeah, he'll have all the resources at his disposal. And yeah, man, it's going to be incredible to watch him play next year, I'm sure.
Yeah. What do you think about Billy Edwards at Wisconsin?
Look, it's a definite upgrade from Braden Locke, obviously.
From Braden Locke, yeah. But is it an upgrade from like Tanner Mordecai or TVD?
Not really, in my opinion. I think it
doesn't seem like it, does it?
It feels very Tanner Mordecai-ish.
Yeah. Very Tanner Mordecai-ish.
We never really got to see TVD play in the Big Ten, so I can't really comment on that. But
we saw Tanner Mordecai play like 10 games?
Yeah. We saw him play enough, and it feels like that. Like he can look good, he can be hot every once in a while, but also inconsistent and inaccurate.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised Luke Fickell can't do better at this point. One, I'm kind of surprised Luke Fickell hasn't been able to develop his own quarterback. And also that we're in the third year in a row he's dipping into the transfer portal. And the best he can do is the starter off a 4-8 Big Ten team. I mean, that's like when Fickell took the job, man, there was expectations that he was going to get big time players in the portal.
Well, there were another team, which we'll talk about the other team that I know there were talks about getting Miller Moss. I know there were talks about getting who was the other quarterback that they were? I heard the name thrown around. That was kind of a big name, but
was it the Cal? Was it the Cal one? Fernando, whatever.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I think so. But either way, like it was. Yeah, I mean, like the talk is because this is Luke Fickell, is that he can bring in these big names and he just hasn't. No. Mordecai is I would, or not Mordecai. Edwards Jr. I think is an above average quarterback, but he's not a world beater.
You think he's an above average quarterback in the Big Ten? I don't. I think he's fully average. I think he's fully on the line of average. He can be a little better than average some days. He can be worse than average other days. I don't know, man. I don't see him as an above average quarterback.
Here's the thing that I want, we talked about how Maryland never recruited an offensive line.
No, ever.
And not that, Wisconsin's offensive line was not by no means great this year, but
it was better than Maryland's.
And that's what I'm saying. So I think if he can get some better pass protection, he could look a lot better than he did this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's kind of like where I'm coming from, is I think that he has a chance at maybe being an above average quarterback, where this year, obviously, he didn't have a lot of opportunity because in every quarterback in Maryland, even Talia was running for his life. So I think with Wisconsin, you can hope anyways that they're going to be able to provide more pass protection, and he's going to look like that. That's kind of what I guess maybe I'm predicting to happen. So
Yeah.
I think the potential is there. Let's just put it that way.
And is he clearly the guy, or is he in a contest with this kid with the San Diego transfer?
I don't see how it's not Billy Edwards Jr.
It's got to be Billy Edwards, right? He's the guy, right? Right.
I mean, look, he's got the experience.
Yes, it's a competition, but like air quotes, right?
Yeah, he's got the experience of playing in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten.
He knows what he's going to be looking at. You want that kind of experience playing for you and starting for you. Like, I don't see why you would, unless the other guy is like, just a total freak. But like, I don't think that's the case here. I think you want to go with the guy with the experience and has the ability to be a leader on the field. And I feel like Billy Edwards Jr. is that guy for sure. So. But you will see, man. Again, but is that also is that going to fix everything at Wisconsin either? Because I still don't know, and obviously there's still time, but I still don't know what they have as like a running back either. Like what's in their backfield? There's nobody transferring in that I'm seeing that's looking like the next Jonathan Taylor or Monte Ball or whatever. Like it's just not happening.
I mean, maybe they get somebody after spring ball when like some guy who's like been playing but loses out the starting spot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they find a guy like that. But yeah, you're right, man. If I'm Wisconsin looking at next year, if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I'm worried about the lack of offensive firepower right now.
Yep. Yeah.
And they definitely need to hit some stuff in the portal.
Yeah.
At running back for sure. And honestly, they really need to hit a wide receiver too.
Yeah. Well, I think they did. They got a couple good guys defensively, so
yes.
that's good. That's good. They needed that for sure.
Oh, absolutely. They need to be much more consistent. We saw at their best, Wisconsin could play pretty good defense last year, but it was not consistent at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got. My note says nobody to Iowa. But Iowa thought they were getting Miller Moss, maybe Billy Edwards. Now they think maybe they're getting Bo Pribula from Penn State. First off, is Iowa really going to get anybody, or are they just going to end up starting Brendan Sullivan? Because that's what I think is going to happen.
I agree, and we've talked about this, and as long as Kirk Ferentz is there, Iowa is where quarterbacks go to die. Like that's just what it is,
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to be a jerk about that. It's just the truth. And it didn't used to always be that way, but it is now and has been for a while. Yeah. There's a reason there aren't. I think they did get a transfer, but it is nobody of note.
Right.
And definitely, I don't think as good as Brendan Sullivan, which is not saying much.
Right.
So I agree. I think they're just going to start Brendan Sullivan. I don't think they're going to get Bo Pribula. I think that is ridiculous to even assume so. Same thing as when they were thinking they were going to get Miller Moss. Like I was like, okay, right. Like, no.
Right.
That's sorry. That's not because and it's not even just about the quarterback. Who are they throwing to?
That's the thing. That's the thing. Outside of tight ends, who do you have? Iowa. We've talked about this.
Yes.
They have recruited at a group of 5 level at wide receiver for a long time.
Yeah.
And they're not hitting, they haven't hit on anybody in the portal yet who makes me convinced that that's going to solve that problem.
No. They got a lot of work to do, man. I mean, defensively, of course, they're going to be great. They always are. I have faith in that they'll be solid. But offensively, again, unless they find another Caleb Johnson, what are they going to do?
I mean, he's going to have to find another Caleb Johnson because otherwise, and that worked. It worked for the most part this year.
Yeah.
They were stopped sometimes, but against most opponents, it was good enough.
Yep.
And they were able to score 30, 40 points in several games.
Yep.
But yeah, Kirk Ferentz, he's kind of in that spot. Iowa's kind of in that spot where Wisconsin was, where they kind of need an elite running back or else the offense just doesn't work.
Yep.
And that and like not just an elite running back, but like an elite top running back.
Which they used to churn out every year. Essentially.
Wisconsin did.
Oh no, sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Iowa. Kirk Ferentz found more ways to win. He found ways to win with defense and special teams. Kirk Ferentz, for a long time, had a better passing game than Wisconsin ever did.
Yes.
So it's interesting that Kirk Ferentz can't field a passing game anymore.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't always that way. I remember in the Ricky Stanzi to Marvin McNutt days, like they had They had guys
Yeah.
in the 2000s.
Yes, they did.
They had guys in the early 2010s.
Dude, CJ Beathard, I mean, like, he was outstanding.
Nathan Stanley, they've had quarterbacks.
Yeah,
they stopped having receivers.
Yeah.
They didn't stop having quarterbacks who could play. They stopped having receivers. And at a certain point, if your receiver play is bad enough, it makes your quarterback play terrible.
Yep.
So it's really interesting. I don't know. I'm really fascinated to see what Iowa does either because like Moulton's a good running back, but he's not Caleb Johnson, man.
No.
So what does Iowa do to try to juice the offense? If they have a bunch of money, do they throw it at a transfer running back or something?
Mm-hmm.
Do they tamper a little bit and try to get somebody in the portal and be like, you can come have 300 carries?
I feel like they have to. I don't know what else they're going to do right now because like we established, it's just not alluring for any solid quarterback to go to Iowa. There's no what incentive do you have? You've seen what they do.
No, and he's not developing them out of high school anymore.
No.
For a long time, it didn't matter that Kirk Ferentz didn't recruit elite at the quarterback level because he was good at evaluating talent and developing it. But that's just not happening anymore.
Yep.
So, that's interesting to see, man. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what happens with Iowa going into next year. It feels like a really big, because Iowa kind of underperformed expectations this year, it makes next year feel like an important year.
Well, and I feel like every year now, or like, the last few years, it's feeling more important, even though they've definitely probably exceeded their ability in winning games, win totals, because, like we've talked about, Kirk Ferentz made a deal with the devil. So
Faustian Pact, absolutely.
That's how it happened. But it's still, I feel like it's just one really bad season away from them pushing him out the door into early
from the fans turning on him. Yeah.
Yes. And
I feel like Beth Getz is ready. Like, I feel like Beth Getz is like, this will be my time to be in charge.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think she's had it ready to go for like the past 2 years. I think there's even still fans now that are like, yeah, it's probably time you go, buddy. Like,
which is weird. They might win 9 games this year.
Yeah.
They won 10 games last year.
Yeah.
And like, the bad games have been really bad, but still, it's still kind of wild to me.
Yeah. But I feel like it's like, if there's one bad season, that'll be it. Like, that's it for Kirk. They'll push him out the door. So
yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. What do you think about Bo Pribula? Both like as a prospect going forward, and also the fact that he is going to leave Penn State before the college football playoff.
Path moving forward, I get it. He's not going to surpass Aller at Penn State, and I think he's definitely qualified to be a starter somewhere, and he will start somewhere. So he's dynamic. He's great he can use his legs. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. I think he's smart. So I think he'll do really well wherever he ends up. But at the same time, like, you don't blame him for leaving. He's just trying to do what's best for his career and to make, get the money where he can get it. Especially when you're not going to start next year because Drew Aller decided to come back, which is what I would do as Drew Aller. I think that's the right choice. But it just sucks the way this is all set up. Like we've talked about already with like where the transfer portal is located and all this. Like you don't. It should be, in my opinion, post-season. Like, I don't know why that isn't a thing, and why ever you're allowed to even, I shouldn't say allowed, but like in some ways not given the choice but to transfer at this point in time.
Well, because they have to get into classes at their new school too.
Yeah.
And it's like there's got to be a way to make it so these guys can start their classes a few weeks late. It goes longer into the summer then.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe you have football players on a slightly different schedule. Yeah. Where when everyone else is taking finals, maybe they're taking finals like a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
And then with that, you could have them start a little later, and then it's not as big a deal. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's realistic. But right now it's not great. And I think what makes it even worse, and we've talked about a million times, is that until these players are paid directly, they're not on contract.
Yeah.
And when they're not on contract, they can just opt out.
Well, and I have to believe that Bo Perbula wants to play in this game. I don't think he doesn't want to be there because
of course he wants to be there.
But like we said, like he's not. I don't think he has any other option right now. He's doing what.
Well, he could stay. He could do both. That's what the SMU backup is doing. He's in the transfer portal, but he's still playing in the playoff.
Okay.
So Bo Perbula could do both. He's choosing to just move on.
Okay.
And I don't know. Maybe I don't know what advice he's getting. I don't know if people are telling him that he'll be more attractive if he's doesn't have to deal with the whole playoff run thing as like a prospect for other teams. I don't know, but he could be staying and is choosing not to. So that's, I don't know. It's like, I'm not mad at him because he didn't set up this terrible system.
No,
but it's a little disappointing for a guy who's actively, not just the backup, but like actively used in Penn State's game plan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's used in every game. He's part of their whole scheme. So I don't know. Yeah, it kind of, it does. It throws a little bit of a wrench in things moving forward with Penn State, not having him out there. We'll see, man. Yeah, but I don't see you going to Iowa.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be Iowa. I don't at all. I would be, I wonder if like an SEC school gets involved here.
I could see that.
Like
100%.
something that you use, like, I look at a school like Auburn that wants to be a little more dual thready.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And wonder where they're going if they have a quarterback for next year they feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I could see Bo Perbula landing somewhere like in a coach who wants to do more of the dual threat thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's, there might be a place for him at like a Texas A&M or
Texas A&M has their quarterback unless he leaves. I
guess I'm not really that impressed with him, I guess, but
sure.
So maybe he could compete. I'm just thinking. I guess I'm trying to think of like there could be other schools then I guess where he could compete. He could come in and maybe win that starting job.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, I could see him end up at an SEC school as well.
Yeah, and then should we talk about the good and the bad of the portal as reads our Minnesota Golden Gophers?
Yeah, let's do it.
So on the plus side, PJ Fleck is on a little bit of a heater in the portal. He's gotten some guys over the last couple days. He got Marshall running back transfer AJ Turner, who's one of the best running backs, one of the most explosive best running backs in the portal. So getting him to match with Darius Taylor is a really big deal. They got Zach Pyron from Georgia Tech. He will come in and compete with Drake Lindsay to be the starting quarterback next year. Cameron Davis, Washington graduate running back. Rushawn Lawrence from Stony Brook, a defensive tackle who had a lot of offers, so that's important. And then I think the biggest one, man, is Miami, Ohio, first team All-MAC wide receiver Javon Tracy. He had 1 million offers, could have gone a lot of places. With Daniel Jackson graduating, Minnesota absolutely, and Elijah Spencer, so that they're 1 and 2 receivers. Minnesota absolutely needed to bring in a guy to be the number 1 receiver next year. They don't have anybody they have guys who have done some things, but they don't have anybody with the proven production, or did not until they brought in Tracy. So I think bringing him in is a really big deal, and gives you the hope that Minnesota could be, maybe even more as dynamic, or maybe more dynamic at the skill positions next year than they were this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the passing game should improve even more so. At least that's the hope. I can see the potential there. And as well with these running backs, because what we saw this year of Minnesota, opening up the run by throwing the ball and being able to throw the ball to people like Darius and Major, and having that option is just become very important to, I think, our identity. And now these other running backs are capable of doing the same thing. And we also brought in Cabana from
Cole Cabana from Michigan, who is known for his speed, which may surprise you when you see his complexion, which is all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about it. But is known for his speed. So I'll be interested to see if he can carve out a role, because he supposedly has good hands catching the ball. And I wonder if he could carve out a role as like a third down, catch the ball out of the backfield kind of back.
Yeah. Well, wasn't he, he win he was the top running back out of Michigan the same year that Darius was also, so they're the same class, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting, and I'm just, obviously we're plenty deep at running back right now, and I feel pretty good about our receiving core. It's just the problem, which will transition, I guess, into this next thing is going to be the offensive line. Makes me nervous.
Yeah, well, the portal give it, the portal take it away. But what makes me mad about what we're going to talk about next, Philip Daniels, is that Philip Daniels wasn't in the portal. Philip Daniels was perfectly happy. He had his offer from Dinkytown Athletes. He was ready to run it back, all that kind of stuff. Ohio State, and I will name names, decided to tamper with him, with a kid from Ohio, tamper with him, offer him the moon, and now it looks like he's going to leave Dinkytown. And that sucks because Minnesota went from having 3 returning starters in the offensive line to 2.
Yeah.
And now they have, another guy they have to replace. So the Gophers probably already needed to get an offensive lineman or 2 in the portal. Well, now they need 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I do think maybe some of the young guys are ready to play and that kind of stuff. So like, I'm not saying that they all have to be starter quality, but they all need to be depth. Like they need a couple guys who are starter quality, and they need somebody who's depth quality, and it's just, Minnesota had a thing where they had a couple guys flip late in the cycle in the 2023 class. And so they're missing those guys. Those guys just are, that's what happens sometimes when guys flip late, especially, it's the thing about skill position players there's a million dudes between like 5'7" and 6'5" who are good athletes, right? There's dudes everywhere who are somewhere in there who are good athletes. There are just not that many people who are over 6'3", who have gigantic frames, who are freakishly strong, and also coordinated and light on their feet. There just aren't that many people like that.
Yep.
So when you lose out on an offensive lineman in the portal, it hurts more than a lot of other positions. And if Minnesota is one offensive lineman away from being really good next year, I will be so angry. But they have a chance, man. They're bringing some guys in. They're looking at it, a bunch of different guys. Maybe they don't have to portal a whole O-line. If you figure one of the, one or two of the young guys are ready to start, maybe you only need 1 or 2 offensive linemen who can play right now, but they're going to need to find them, and they're going to need guys who are ready to go, because if you look at the rest of this Minnesota team, this is a team that looks constructed to be competitive this next year. And the offensive line is the big right now gaping question mark.
Yeah, I think I agree. And as we've established many times on this podcast, if you are not solid on the line of scrimmage, it doesn't matter how good your skill players are.
No,
it won't.
Nope, does not.
So hopefully,
I'm feeling some kind of way about it, man. I'm not.
Yeah.
It frustrates me because it's not that I love anyone else in the Big Ten other than the Gophers. I love the conference as a whole.
Yeah,
I appreciate all the teams individually, but the Gophers are the only team I love. But being as we have a historic rivalry game with Michigan, I've always cheered for Ohio State in the game.
Yeah,
against Michigan.
Same.
And I have a very close friend of the pod, Phil, who's a alum and diehard Buckeyes fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like being this mad at Ohio State. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. Ryan Day can back off, develop your own lineman. Like, what are you even doing?
Yeah.
And the thing that sucks is, man, maybe it works out for Philip Daniels, or maybe he never starts there and it ends up hurting his progress. You know, that could happen too, because Ohio State's not going to just bring him in. They're going to bring in several guys, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's, and that kind of stuff happens all the time. So
yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, right now, Minnesota's looking like they need to really hit it on offensive line in the portal. PJ Fleck's doing well other places. So that's the good news. The good news is Minnesota has more NIL money than they've had in the past. So hopefully there's enough left in the pot in PJ's. I imagine PJ having like a little pot of gold behind his bed. you know? And he's like, and when the boosters or when the players call, he's like, okay, here's I'll scoop you up like a sack full of gold. Here you go.
He's a
You
little bald leprechaun. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a little bit of that thing, right?
Yeah.
I could see it. For sure. Somebody brought up a fact again that PJ Fleck, the first time he won the axe, that he slept with it.
Oh yeah.
And dude, I tried to find, somebody did artwork at the time of him like with his hands behind his head, like leaning back with the holding the axe, or with the axe just like draped across him, and I tried to find that picture, I couldn't find it because I wanted to troll with it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that that those fans think that it somehow bothers us that's what they did.
No, we love, dude. Here's the thing: we're weird too. We appreciate PJ's weirdness.
Yes,
because we're plenty weird. We're both artsy weird dudes who just happen to love football. It is what it is. So you guys may think PJ's a weirdo. I think he's more human than the coaches who have less personality.
I agree, and frankly, you can't convince me that there is any head coach in college football that isn't a fucking freaking weirdo.
Well, at least we got 41 minutes in first.
Pardon me.
Yes, no, they're all weird. They're all crazy.
They all are. They're
egomaniacs, all of them.
Out of their minds in their own right. And some are just a little bit more
come in a box.
Yeah. So it's a lot, man. I just think it's funny, and frankly, that is just what it is. And I think PJ owns that, and it's just part of the identity. And frankly, it makes me, the more it bothers other fan bases, the more like I'm happy with it.
And I will say, we were worried about quarterback going into last year, and PJ went out and he found the quarterback he needed to find in Max Brosmer to get the job done. So I do have some faith with a little more money to spend this time around, that PJ will do what it takes to, take whatever money was going to go to Phillip Daniels and go find somebody else.
Well, and we were told all offseason that Max Brosmer was just going to be a bust, and it was a joke that because he was an FCS quarterback by some of these same fans. And
Max Brosmer was really good.
Yeah,
if he had another year, man, he could kill it. But
I know.
But such is life.
Yep.
All right, and next up, before we talk about these games, Notre Dame going to be not on NBC, on ABC for the first time since the early 90s.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I remember, I don't remember this, but when Notre Dame, I know from studying it, that when Notre Dame first signed that deal, it was considered so much better than what the other conference teams had.
Yep.
And now we live in a world where the Big Ten and the SEC are making way more money than Notre Dame, So it's interesting to see. It was inevitable Notre Dame would have to play a game off of NBC at some point, and here we are, or home game off of NBC at some point.
Well, and it's also amazing too that as we've talked about, that NBC also now has a large investment within the Big Ten itself too. So
yep.
I think to me this is another sign of the times to the Fighting Irish of that change is coming. And as much as you are digging in your heels and crying and kicking and screaming, it's happening whether you like it or not. And you're either going to come along for the ride or you're going to be left behind.
Yep.
So that's what's happening. This is just it may seem small, that this is just like, oh, well, whatever, like, like you said, like, oh, it was going to happen eventually. No, this is just now, I think these TV networks and the rest of college football being like, we don't care about, you can demand whatever you want, but we're going to do what we want. You don't get to make those demands anymore.
Nope.
So it's, I love it.
Yeah, me too. I'm pumped for it. All right. Should we talk about these playoff games?
Yeah.
All right. So in this episode, once again, we are previewing the playoff games, and then in an upcoming Christmas Eve episode, we will preview all the Big Ten bowl games. So first up, we have on Friday, December 20th, we have the 11-1, number 10 ranked Indiana Hoosiers going to South Bend to take on the also 11-1, number 7th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is a 7 p.m. game on ABC. The line is Notre Dame by 7.5. These teams have a lot in common, including the state in which they reside. Now, Notre Dame has largely owned this state for football, while Indiana and Purdue have taken turns owning the state for basketball. But this game could throw that hierarchy out the window. The Indiana Hoosiers have a chance to announce that under Curt Cignetti, they loom even larger than the Irish in the college football landscape. It's a generational opportunity that Indiana has here, one not to be taken lightly. For Notre Dame, it would be virtually impossible for their fan base to accept a loss to Indiana in this game, full stop. The Irish had better win, because if they don't, Indiana will be rubbing their face in this loss for generations to come.
Yep.
Both teams rank extremely well in all metrics. Both teams played schedules that were somewhat easier than some of their college football playoff peers, but both looked very convincing against the slate of games they did play. Notre Dame ranked third in the country in scoring D, giving up just over 13 points per game, while Indiana ranked sixth nationally, giving up a little over 14 points per game. On offense, both rated even better. Indiana's second in the country in scoring offense at just over 43 points per game, while the Irish ranked directly behind them at third nationally with just under 40 points per game. The fact that both teams rate so well in scoring offense and defense is kind of incredible. This is a great matchup between two tested, gritty teams. Both teams have fantastic defenses that do a great job of executing on key downs. One thing I noticed is that so far this year, Indiana has a big advantage in red zone offense. The Hoosiers rank third nationally in red zone offense, while Notre Dame is tied for 75th. So one thing I'll be tracking in this game is how successful both teams are in the red zone. Conversely, on red zone D, the Irish are 10th, while Indiana's 65th. So both teams have holes there, and whichever team executes better in the red zone, might be the one who wins the game. To me, though, the key to this game, as we always talk about, we were just talking about it in regards to Minnesota, is line of scrimmage play. Can Indiana hold Notre Dame's prolific run game in check? The Irish ranked 10th nationally in rushing with 225 yards per game. Indiana's D largely played really well against Ohio State, but can they hold up against the Irish? The Irish have an elite O-line, and my fear is that they will be able to dictate terms against this Indiana defense. And is Indiana able to block the Irish D-line? We saw against Ohio State that Curtis Rourke got harassed all day, and he was a shell of his normal self. Rourke is a QB who needs enough time to make his reads to throw. He's not as good as some QBs are at improvising or adjusting in the pocket. So it's imperative that Indiana find a way to give Rourke enough time to throw. So if I'm Indiana, I'm doing things to help Rourke have more time. I might keep in running backs and tight ends to block more often, run fewer routes and max protect. This could prevent Notre Dame from doing to Indiana's O-line what Ohio State did, which was just overwhelm them up front. And that's the whole game to me, honestly. I kind of don't think Indiana will be able to stop the run very well, at least not for the whole game. I could see them having success in the first half maybe, but even then I'm not totally sure. I think eventually the blows build up on a chilly night and Notre Dame will be able to run the ball effectively. So Indiana has to be prepared to do what they've done almost all year, which is score a lot of points and answer opponent touchdowns with touchdowns of their own. We know IU has the skill players to get this done. Curtis Rourke is as accurate and decisive as any QB in America, thrown for over 2,800 yards, 70% completions, 10 yards per attempt, 27 TDs, just 4 picks. He's got to avoid turning the ball over. You can't give this Irish running game short fields to work on, or they could tear you apart. And then, man, wide receiver Elijah Surratt's a superstar. Cooper, Price, and Williams and Cross can all contribute. Ellison and Lawton form a legit QB or a running back duo. And for Notre Dame, man, it's simple. They want to control the game, running the ball with Jeremiah Love and QB Riley Leonard. They want to dictate play, dominate time of possession, keep this IU offense off the field. So how do you see this one breaking down?
I see it going two ways. I do see it going the way of that Notre Dame wants to control the clock and run the ball and just punish Indiana into submission, which is very likely, very, very, very possible. But I can also see it going another way where because Indiana has the superior quarterback in every way. Riley Leonard is serviceable for the most part, but he is no way Curtis Rourke.
He's much better runner than he is a thrower.
Yes. And, and against USC, they allowed a quarterback like Jaden Maeva to throw 360 yards and have a 76.3 QBR.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm not sold. Now, I think I think Notre Dame's defensive line is really good, but I'm not sold on their secondary.
No, their secondary got torched by USC. Torched.
So, and I think Indiana's offense and their passing game is far superior to USC's.
Way better.
So
way more consistent.
If Curtis Rourke is the guy that we know he can be, and their receivers are on their game, I do think that they could put this out of the reach. And I think having the superior quarterback, for me, makes me think that Indiana has a slight edge. I just need to see them basically show up on the offensive line, at least for a half, or the defensive line for a half, to be able to slow down Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love if they can. And if they can accomplish that, I think that they have a possibility at winning this game. And also, I think the turnover battle is going to be imperative. If they can find a way to get an interception, recover a fumble, which, it did happen against USC as well, that it is possible to if you can win the turnover game, to also win this and keep bring victory back to Indiana against this Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which would be incredible. So I'm picking Indiana to win this game. Not by a lot.
Ooh, okay.
But I am.
Okay.
I think it's going to be tough, but I just think Kurt Cignetti learned a lot from Ohio State.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that he is too smart and too freaking determined to let something like that happen again. And he's had more time to prepare for this now.
It's true.
So I'm a full-on believer in Kurt Cignetti. I'll admit to saying, like, I just don't want to see the Irish win anything. But I'm really coming from a place that I think that Indiana has a slight edge, and mainly due to the fact that they have a quarterback like Curtis Rourke and the passing game that they have. So I think it's possible. I think they can hang with them defensively, but overwhelm them on the offense.
So what do you think the score looks like?
I think it's Indiana 31, Notre Dame 28.
Okay. All right. I'm having a hard time. So I think Indiana might have to steal a possession at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be surprised if Cignetti goes for it on 4th and 7 at midfield or better, or fakes a punt or a field goal. Because if Indiana can't stop the run, they will have to find creative ways to get extra possessions, whether that's going for it on 4th down or forcing turnovers on defense. For me, I believe that Indiana's D-line can do enough to slow Notre Dame down in the run game for a while. But I worry about whether, once you get to the second half, whether that run game starts to chip away and do a little better as guys get tired a little bit, guys get worn down, guys get cold. And I also worry about whether Indiana's offensive line can protect Rourke long enough to give him a chance to move the ball. Because Ohio State just ripped IU's offensive line apart and made it impossible for them to pass the ball at all. So my fear is that if the Irish D-line can force similar pressure, IU could be in real trouble. Indiana's a pass-to-run team. If they can't protect the QB, then the passing part of that equation disappears. So they absolutely have to play better up front than they did against Ohio State on the offensive line. That said, what if IU can compete on both sides of the line of scrimmage? Then the Irish could be in huge trouble.
Yep.
Because if Notre Dame can't run the ball and can't pressure the QB, Indiana could run up the score and run away with this with their explosiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That would be genuinely hilarious. Can you imagine if Indiana wins this like 31-13? Like how that would shake, and Kirk Cignetti's just like, yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen.
Well, not only would it ruin like the fans of the Irish, but the national media wouldn't know what to do.
They'd be in mourning, man. They have flags at half mast. Like it would be ridiculous.
Yep.
I can already hear Pat 40 in hushed tones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it'd be hilarious. Be genuinely funny. I hope for that outcome.
Yep.
I do. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think we're in for a shootout. I think Notre Dame's going to be able to run the ball, but I think Indiana's going to be able to score points via their explosive passing attack. The Irish secondary, as you said, looked really vulnerable against USC to end the year. Indiana, as you said, has a better passing game than USC does, with a far more accurate QB, more reliable options at wide receiver. So the Irish D-line better win convincingly, or else Indiana is going to put up points. And if Indiana puts up enough points, it won't matter if Notre Dame runs the ball all day, because whoever has the ball last will probably win.
Yep.
I think we get a game that's sort of in between. I think both offenses struggle a little bit early as they feel each other out, but then both will warm up and get going in the second quarter and the second half. I believe Indiana can win this game. I believe the Hoosiers have a real chance. I have enjoyed this magical ride we've been on with Indiana all season long, starting with them blowing out UCLA and us going, oh, wow, that was interesting. And going from there all the way to here.
Yep.
Ultimately, I just think that Notre Dame at this point in Indiana's development, with Kurt Signetti bringing so many guys from the group of five, where size is just different, I just think Notre Dame is going to be the superior team on the line of scrimmage, and that will allow the Irish to pull it out late. So I have Notre Dame 34, Indiana 27.
Okay. Pretty close.
But I hope I'm wrong. I'll be cheering for the Hoosiers hard.
Yep. Same. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's going to be, that's this Friday. That's in a couple days, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, next up, we have the 11-2, number 11, Southern Methodist University Mustangs at the 11-2, number 6, Penn State Nittany Lions. This game is being played on Saturday, December 21st. It's an 11 a.m. game on TNT. The line is Penn State by 8.5. This is a battle of two prolific offenses. SMU ranks sixth in the nation in scoring with 38.5 points per game. Penn State ranks 25th with just under 34 points per game. Penn State ranks 8th in the country in scoring defense at 16 points per game, while SMU ranks 28th in the country, giving up just under 21 points per game. Both teams are dangerous, both running and passing the ball. Penn State's offense is centered around its running backs, Nicholas Singleton and Keyshawn Allen, along with do-everything Mackey Award-winning tight end Tyler Warren. And SMU switched QBs early in the year, and it paid off as Kevin Jennings has been extremely prolific. He's completed 66% of his passes, just over 3,000 yards, 8.9 yards per attempt, 22 TDs to 8 picks. Lead running back Brashard Smith is having a great year with nearly 1,300 yards rushing on 5.9 yards per rush and 14 TDs. Whether or not SMU can establish the run will be a key factor in this game. Penn State ranks 9th in the country in run defense, giving up just over 104 yards per game on the ground. I'm going to be laser focused on whether SMU can get anything going on the ground or not. Jennings is mobile, so they use him as a number in the running game. That should theoretically open up lanes for Brashard Smith. But Penn State has a fantastic D-line, particularly defensive ends Abdul Carter and Denai Dennis Sutton. SMU doesn't have a single dominant receiver, but instead have 4 guys who can contribute, led by Roderick Daniels with 599 yards and Keyshawn Smith with 512 yards receiving. Tight end Matthew Hibner isn't as good as the guy he replaced, RJ Maryland, but he's been decent. Look for Penn State to try to play aggressively on the outside, especially early in the game as these teams are feeling each other out. I suspect Penn State DC Tom Allen will want to stop the run and force Jennings to beat them with his arm. Can his receivers get separation? Can they beat one-on-one coverage? If so, game on. If not, this could be a long game for SMU. John, how do you see this one playing out?
I think SMU is going to show some flashes early on. Yeah. I think SMU is going to, I think Kevin Jennings, who is electric, is going to be able to improvise on some plays, and it's going to look amazing. And Penn State's going to look like they're in trouble. But I think then I think that's going to end relatively quickly by the end of the first half.
Yeah.
I think Penn State or SMU is just outsized and outclassed as far as talent, as far as strength and power. Yeah. And especially at the line of scrimmage. And I also I have faith in Tom Allen of finding a way to stop this SMU offense, which is very, very good. And Kevin Jennings is amazing. Brashard Smith is a lot of fun to watch. There's a ton of speed all over that offense, but there's not a lot of size.
And Penn State has both on defense.
Yes, they do. So, I think they're going to be able to find a way. I trust Tom Allen to find a way to contain Kevin Jennings, force him to throw the ball, force him to make mistakes. But again, I just don't think against this physical Penn State team, which we saw make probably in my opinion, still at this point, the best team in the country, and obviously they are number one. Oregon, struggle, and if Penn State's defense can make Oregon struggle, I just don't think SMU really stands a chance. I think that they showed a lot of fight. They looked really good against a good Clemson team, but that Clemson team also is in Penn State. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to, maybe look like SMU might give them a scare early on in the game, maybe even go up by a score. The first quarter, Penn State looks like they're a little slow, a little sluggish, before just, opening the floodgates and punishing them into submission. And then by the end of the first half, and then the second half, just totally taking over. And so I have Penn State running away with this, by the score of 35-17.
Okay. Yeah, my issue is that I flat out believe Penn State has a big advantage on both lines of scrimmage.
Yeah.
SMU was a group of 5 team last year. They just made the jump to the ACC. They don't have the depth, size, talent, speed that Penn State has on the lines of scrimmage. I think that Tyler Warren is going to be unstoppable in this game. And more importantly, man, Penn State ran the ball for 300 yards against Oregon. I think they're going to run the ball all day against SMU.
Yep.
I think they're going to beat them in a submission. I think Nicholas Singleton is going to break off like a 70-yard touchdown run at some point. And he's going to make it look easy. And SMU is going to be like, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think SMU comes out fast. I think they score on their first possession, maybe their first 2 possessions. But once Tom Allen figures out what they're trying to do, he's going to put the squeeze on, and then it's going to be tough, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of chances for Abdul Carter and the Penn State D-line to rush the passer because SMU is not going to be able to run the ball, so they're going to be in second and third and long a lot. So, like I said, I think they score some points via the passing game, and the offense will come in fits and spurts, but I do think once Penn State figures it out, it's going to be tough. If SMU still had RJ Maryland, maybe I could think they'd score a little more, but just the way SMU is constituted presently, Penn State's got better athletes. It'll be close for a while. Eventually, the Nittany Lions pull away. Penn State Nittany Lions 27, the SMU Mustangs 13.
Okay.
All right. And then next up, we have the 10-2, number 9, Tennessee Volunteers heading to Columbus to take on the 10-2, number 8, Ohio State Buckeyes. This is a 7 p.m. game on ABC. The line is Ohio State by 7.5. The spread has moved a half point in Ohio State's direction since the spread was initially set at 7. So it's now at 7.5. This is not where either of these programs expected to be. Both anticipated winning their respective conferences this year. Ohio State has one of the most expensive rosters ever assembled at the collegiate level. And the plan was to win the Big Ten title, beat Michigan, and win the national title. So far, despite being 10-2, they are 0-2 on those goals. It's absolutely imperative that Ryan Day find a way to beat Tennessee, or he will likely be fired.
Yep.
It's that big a game. That brings a lot of juice to this game all by itself, the fact that Ryan Day is coaching for his job. What's also intriguing to me is that Tennessee, in some ways, is a better version of the Michigan team that just beat the Buckeyes.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee has a dominant D-line led by D linemen like Joshua Josephs, Dominic Bailey, James Pierce Jr., who has an impressive 7.5 sacks on the season. They've got run stuffers like Hobbs and Thomas in the middle to try to slow down this Buckeye running game, which has largely been prolific aside when they inexplicably spent the entire game against Michigan trying to establish the run instead of getting it to their most talented players in space. But I digress. I'll never understand that Ohio State game plan against Michigan as long as I live. Chip Kelly should be fired for signing off on that when he's got to know better than that. He's got to be like, hey, Ryan, buddy, pal, love you. Anyway, but that's in the past now. It's over. It happened. I don't think Ohio State makes the same mistake again. Ryan Day is stubborn. He's not stupid. right? So Tennessee is going to have to score points to keep up in this game. It will be up to QB Nico Iamaleava to keep them on track. He's thrown for 2,500 yards this year on 66% completions, 8.3 yards per attempt, 19 TDs, and 5 picks. But he hasn't always made the big plays when they were there to be made. So we need to see more consistency out of him in this game. He's also taken 24 sacks this year. So that's a lot. And that's something to watch if Ohio State, which has been really good at getting pressure on the quarterback and on opposing running games, is able to get to Iamaleava and sack him and put pressure on him. Dylan Sampson for Tennessee is a stellar running back with nearly 1,500 yards rushing on 5.8 yards per attempt and 22 TDs. He's a workhorse who can be depended on. And Tennessee has a lot of size at receiver with the 6'5 Dante Thornton and 6'3 Brew McCoy. It'll be up to the Ohio State DBs to challenge those receivers for 50-50 balls downfield. They can give up some plays downfield, but they can't be losing the majority of these 50-50 balls or it'll be a long day. From the Ohio State side, yeah, they need to get the ball to their best players. In space, full stop. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson, Carnell Tate, and maybe Quinshon Judkins. But it better not be Travion and Judkins carrying the load. That's not what's going to win. Get the ball to Jeremiah Smith. Get the ball to Emeka Egbuka as many times as you possibly can. If the Buckeyes spend the entire first half trying to establish the run against a great Tennessee D-line, they will probably lose.
Yep.
I believe that. So this has got to be about getting the ball in space to playmakers and going from there. John, how do you see this one breaking down?
I agree with everything you just broke down. I think that Ohio State needs to come out with a chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
And understand that the rest of the college football world in many ways is laughing at them because of the fact that this is the most expensive roster in college football. This is still, to me, the most talented roster in college football.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you didn't win the Big Ten championship and you lost to Michigan in embarrassing fashion to a 7-5 now. Michigan in that one of the worst Michigan teams since what, Rich Rod?
The worst since Rich Rod 15 years ago. Yeah.
So you got a lot to prove. And Ryan Day is coaching for his job.
Yes.
And I have to believe, I have to trust that, like you said, he's not going to make the same mistakes he made against Michigan. And although this Tennessee Volunteers team is very good, they are not Ohio State good. And Ohio State has dudes absolutely everywhere at every position. And when they are clicking, they can be unstoppable. And as much as I think, I respect Tennessee for the talent and what they've done and their ability to win games. I don't have as much faith in their quarterback. I don't think, I know he's looked good this year, but I just feel
at times he's looked good.
I think he underthrows passes. I don't think he's as accurate as what maybe even his stats say.
No, I agree. Absolutely agree.
There's some inconsistencies there that give me pause. So, and I think that Ohio State just has more weapons, more people to throw to, more people to run the ball, better offensive and defensive lines, all of the above, everything just better. Plus, which we didn't talk about this, for Penn State and SMU, this is a Southern team coming to play up north in the cold.
Oh, I didn't even. Yeah, that's a really good point for both SMU and for Tennessee. These are Southern boys who have never played a cold weather game probably in their lives.
And it is not going to be just like, oh, it's a chilly October day. This is going to be full on winter cold. Yeah. And in the Midwest, possible there could be like crazy wind, there could be freezing rain, there could be all kinds of crazy weather happenings this time of year.
Let's see, Columbus, Ohio, pulling it up. It says it's going to be high of 29.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get ready. Get ready, Tennessee.
Well, it just snowed. Excited. It just snowed in Happy Valley today. Like they were just clearing snow off of Beaver Stadium. So it's gonna be rough for some of these teams.
Yeah. High of 27 in State College too.
Yeah.
On Saturday. So
I'm looking forward to this. Finally, we're getting some SEC teams to come up north instead of the
See how you like it.
Yeah.
I want to see what happens deep into the third quarter. Are you still wrapping up? Are you still tackling? Or are you doing the thing where you turn a shoulder? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like where you're like you're not doing this anymore. You're just kind of doing this and hoping you can shoulder him to the ground.
Well, now you don't have.
That doesn't work. That's not going to work against Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Not going to work.
No.
Not going to happen.
And it's just this is what it's like to not have the college football playoff committee or the bowl committee giving you all of essentially home games during your bowl games, your postseason games. So finally, and I'm so relieved this is happening. So anyway, back to the point of the game though, is I think I just have to believe that Ryan Day and the team are going to come out with a chip on their shoulder and they want to make a statement.
Yes.
And because they have to. It's not even because like, oh, we want to save face. Like, we don't have an option here. Like, it is national title or bust. Like, I
expect them to play desperate.
Yes.
To play like a desperate team from the first snap.
Yep. So I personally think Tennessee is in a it's kind of too bad. You know, they have, I think, probably the hardest road right now. I think Ohio State, like we said, is desperate, and they're out to prove something. So I see Ohio State winning this. I see Ohio State winning 30 to Tennessee's 20.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Ohio State's 7th in the country in rushing D, while Tennessee is 8th in rushing D. We usually talk in most of these games about the team winning who's best at running the ball. It's often a sign of success in major college football. That said, this is not one of those games. These defenses are too good to waste time trying to establish the run. Both give up under 100 rushing yards per game. The winning team will be the one that gets the ball to its playmakers in space and or wins the most 50-50 balls downfield. I think Tennessee will have to throw it downfield and hope they can make plays. I don't think their skill players are fast enough to beat Ohio State in space if they want to go horizontal. I think they need to use their height and their verticality and try to take advantage of that by hitting those guys 10, 15, 20 yards downfield. The Buckeyes, though, they just have to get the ball to their best playmakers in space as much as possible. I don't want to see 40-plus running plays. You can run the ball in this game just enough to keep the defense honest so they can't tee off and just pass rush you every play. But you can't run the ball too much or you're going to lose. So this whole game is going to feel counterintuitive that way, I think. And I think the other thing I'll say is Josh Heupel's offense has been, I'm not saying it's gimmicky, but some people say that. And what I'll say about it is that it works really well against the teams where they have a talent advantage.
Yeah.
And it works not as well against the teams where they don't have a talent advantage. And so I just think they run out of luck here. I think they'll have some success early in the game, maybe on some scripted drives. But I think once Ohio State figures it out, I think it's going to be tough going, tough sledding. I think Nico's taken 24 sacks this year. I think you add 5.
Yeah.
I got Ohio State getting 5 sacks. So I have the Ohio State Buckeyes 31, the Tennessee Volunteers 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
We were very close.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's funny because you and I, we so often see them the same way. And then I have a guest host on when you're not available. And we're like on different planets, man. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I'm looking forward to this. And I think, I think it's worthwhile, like even talking just like, theoretically about what could happen. I think with the Oregon, just a little preview, I think, of whether or not they face Tennessee or Ohio State, and who do you think they would prefer to play in this situation?
It's Tennessee. Oregon would rather play Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because if Tennessee, I think you can just outspeed them on the outside and call it good. Yeah. I just think you have enough more weapons than they do that I just don't see as consistent as Dylan Gabriel's been. I just can't see Tennessee upsetting Oregon, man. If Oregon has to play Ohio State again, and this time it's in the Rose Bowl, and if it's in the Rose Bowl, it's going to be more Ohio State fans than Oregon fans. Yeah. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Oregon might have the most money, but they don't yet have the most fans. Ohio State does.
Yes.
So I could see that being a very Ohio State heavy crowd because Ohio State didn't have to pay any money to go to the conference title game this year. Their fans.
Yeah.
So they're saving up for it, baby. So that would be that'll be interesting. Yeah, I think they'd much rather play Tennessee. I think if it's Tennessee, Oregon probably tries to get the ball to Tez Johnson as much as possible, and that seems to work pretty well in all their games.
Yes, it does.
I mean, nobody can really cover him. The difference is that Ohio State has enough offense to keep up with Oregon.
Yeah.
And if it's Oregon, Ohio State, it's going to be who has the most turnovers, who does the best job in the red zone.
Yep.
Because everything else, they're both going to have like 500 yards of offense. It's going to be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially on the Rose Bowl when it won't be cold, it'll be warm, all that kind of stuff. It'll be ideal. It probably won't be windy. It usually isn't. Yeah. So if I am Oregon, I am wearing orange on Saturday. I'm cheering, go Vols. I'm pumping up. I'm doing that because could Oregon win the rematch against Ohio State? Sure. But it's really hard to beat a team that good twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I'm with you, man. I think you're rooting for Tennessee all the way if you're Oregon right now. Again, I don't think the chip on their shoulder or the desperation will wear off even if Ohio State wins this game. I think they're going to come in, if they are able to beat Tennessee, they're going to come in the next round just as angry and desperate. And I think that just doesn't bode well. Now, Dan Lanning is amazing. And Oregon is absolutely incredible and could very well beat Ohio State a second time. But I don't know, man. That's not a team I'd want to face at this stage.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna put it on the line. Here's what I'm predicting. Not only is Ohio State gonna win against Tennessee, but the winner of Ohio State Oregon is gonna win the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what I firmly believe. I think those are the best two teams. I think they have the most offensive weapons. I think they have the most depth of talent everywhere. Georgia doesn't have the skill position players they usually do.
No.
Texas has their quarterback play has been really, really inconsistent, and their running back depth is gone after all the injuries they've had and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I look around. Penn State is great, but Penn State couldn't beat Ohio State in Happy Valley. Don't tell me they're going to beat them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I look around at the other potential teams they could face, and I just like Oregon or Ohio State in those matchups. So I think, if I'm Ohio State, I love that I get a shot at Oregon.
Yep.
And it could be a thing where remember when Ohio State and Georgia played and that was the real national title, and then the game against TCU was more of a scrimmage.
Yeah.
It could be like that, where the Oregon Ohio State, we look back after it and think Oregon Ohio State, that was the real national title game.
Yep.
And that was where the haymakers were thrown and the teams were the best, and then whoever won that just rolled.
Yep.
So I can't wait, man. I'm excited. Penn State has a really nice path, dude. If they get by SMU, they get Boise. And dude, can you imagine what a Tom Allen defense is going to do to Boise State, who's totally one-dimensional and reliant on Ashton Genty?
Dude. Yeah.
I mean, I'd almost feel bad for Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
In that case. I don't think he's doing anything.
No.
He'll do some stuff. He's Ashton Genty, right? He'll do some stuff. Don't get me wrong. But that's not going to be a competitive game.
No.
So, dude, Penn State, and then if Indiana wins, they get a shot at Georgia, baby. How funny would the funniest outcome of this playoff would be Indiana beating? Can you imagine if Can you imagine the meltdown if Indiana, lowly, I'm saying in air quotes, Indiana took down the SEC champion? Paul, how'd we get here, Paul?
I feel like, ESPN would just have to go a full out blackout for 24 hours.
Error message.
Everything they had to say about everything would just.
We could have an all Big Ten Final Four. It could happen. I'm just saying. Or no, not all Big Ten. 3 of 4. We could have 3 of 4.
That'd be amazing, dude. That'd be absolutely incredible.
That could happen.
Wow.
How funny would that be?
Oh, dude, it would make I can't tell you how happy and excited I would be.
Dude,
and
hit my veins with an Ohio State Penn State national title game.
Dude,
hit me with it.
I would be trolling ESPN.
Oh my God, it would be. I'd feel like we already won.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would be. Oh man, I can't imagine the cope from Adam Rittenberg. Oh man, I'm so excited for this playoff, dude.
Yeah, me too.
I think the Big Ten matches up well. I think they're even. Like, yes, I picked Indiana to lose, but I think Indiana's got a shot. I think they got a totally legit shot.
Yep.
So, and Notre Dame, man, they're gonna find out their DBs aren't that good, is what they're gonna find out. And unlike Jaden Maeva, Curtis Rourke isn't gonna throw 2 pick sixes to bail you out.
No, he is not.
Not gonna happen.
No.
Yeah. So that's gonna be interesting to me, man. If Curtis Rourke has enough time, he will torch them.
Mm-hmm.
Will he have enough time? If I'm Notre Dame, I'm blitzing like every play.
Have to.
Like every play. I'm not like, I don't want him to get comfortable. I don't want him to feel good at all. Yep. Like I watched Ohio State. Ohio State, the more they blitzed, the better they did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. I love the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
I also have just noticed too, just watching through film and looking through some of these other bowl games and stuff like that too, just like how you can actually see the parity now.
Yes.
Between these teams. Like Vanderbilt was giving Tennessee a run for their money that entire first half. And it was
Vanderbilt beat Bama.
Yeah. Like, I love seeing this. This is what we've wanted. Do not screw it up to anybody who is running college football right now, which there is no commissioner. So nobody really knows. But just don't mess it up. Let us have this, please.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And once again, just want to remind everybody that this was our playoff first round preview. So we will recap these playoff games in a Christmas Eve episode. Mm-hmm. And in that, we will also preview all the bowl games. So we'll preview the second round of the playoffs and all the bowl games. And then we'll do another episode after the new year once we know, where the playoffs at and once the bowl games are finished up so we can recap those and stuff like that.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
Well, if you want to find We Live for Saturday, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. You can find us on Twitter at We Live for B1GSat. You can find Mike here at Alibaba at 26. You can find me, John, at Norwegian Gopher. And again, you can email us, We Live for Saturday, B1G@gmail.com.
All right. Happy holidays. We'll see you all in the Christmas Eve episode. Have a good holiday season. Until then, everybody.